Welcome to the Healer's Moon. My name is Val, and this is the very first episode of my brand new podcast. I wanted to create this podcast to provide accessible herbal education and conversation, but more than that, though, I just feel like we are drowning in information, in details, and facts and studies when it comes to herbal medicine and healing, and yet at the same time, we are just starving for wisdom, for perspective, for connection. How is it that we have so much knowledge at the tips of our fingers, but the actual healer's path that we're on here can just seem so obscure at times? And I truly believe it's because we have such a huge disconnect when it comes to healing. Science is only one branch of it. But in the days of folk healing, herbalism, folklore, intuition, these were all part of the same practice. And over time, though, as modern medicine made its sort of big debut, these pieces of the whole were separated, and herbalism was boiled down to a science. Folklore was sent over to the poets and the philosophers. Intuition was basically almost completely forgotten altogether, because who needs intuition when there are facts, right? So really, the goal of this podcast is to weave those pieces back together to create just this tapestry of holistic living and healing that reflects all of these essential aspects of ourselves and our lineages. So if you're on the herbal path, on a healing path, and you just feel like something's missing, if you feel like you want to get to the next step of connecting, of learning how to heal, but you don't know where to go, maybe this is the right place for you. So with that said, each month we will have sort of just a loose theme in which the conversation will revolve. There will be 3 episodes per month. There will be 1 episode diving into the concept of the theme, an episode covering a specific plant to help us understand the theme, and then also an interview episode with a teacher in the healing realm to help us deepen our knowledge too. And then obviously the last week of the month, there will be no episode. And so this is a time for rest, reflection. This is our new moon phase. So there will be no episode then. I also wanted to bring up the name of this podcast, The Healer's Moon, just to give a little context. Because centuries ago, when people lived by the cycles of the moon and the seasons, they named each full moon of the year in relation to something that was relevant to that specific moment in time, like the flower moon when the flowers bloomed, hunter's moon when the hunters, were most prosperous, the strawberry moon when the strawberries were blooming, etc. And so I wanted to call this podcast The Healer's Moon because we are bringing the healer back into season, not just herbalists, but healers of the old ways who listen to stories and speak the language of the plants and seek justice for the land, for the people who've been marginalized, for humanity as a whole. This is our time to shine as the full moon. We are coming into our own once again, my friends, and I hope you'll come along on this journey with me. So with all of that said, I wanted to begin this podcast at the very beginning. This episode is airing on the winter solstice, the darkest day, the longest night of the year, and like all things, we're beginning in the darkness. In the abyss, the chaos of the night, this is where magic is made. I've been watching the new season of The Witcher, and it's always interesting to me how they use the words magic and chaos interchangeably. I find this interesting because in biodynamic farming, it is also believed that in the seed, when it's planted and watered, chaos breaks loose. All around, as the seed is starting to awaken, energy in this little microcosm is shooting left and right, up and down, all around. It's pure chaos. And in biodynamics, we believe only from this chaos is the seed able to germinate and sprout into a new plant. So if we're thinking of chaos and magic as interchangeable, then growing plants alone is pure, unadulterated magic in itself. This is just the way of the universe. The Big Bang is the same concept. The beautiful, fantastic, just glimmering phenomenon of nebulas are created from the chaos of a dying star. Magic exists all around, within and without. The struggle we face as healers, though, is how to wield that raw magic? How do we use our bodies and our minds to channel this into healing, prosperity, abundance? In my mind, it is only when we can learn to work with and shape chaos that we can make magic, that we can heal ourselves and others. The good news, obviously, is that there is chaos all around us, and maybe within us too. The bad news is that it can be completely overwhelming and overpowering, as I'm sure you can relate. So then that leaves us with the question, how do we wield chaos? How do we make magic? Each person's path is long and, unique, winding. It's a journey, but one thing that is absolutely essential is to have a solid foundation. This is the key. We need a foundation within ourselves and around us that is soft enough to fall back on when chaos knocks us down, yet fertile and porous enough that we can grow our roots deep and strong into the soil. Because when our roots are deep and our ground is flexible, we ourselves become more resilient. We become almost this dowsing rod of sorts that is able to bend and flow with the wind, yet direct chaos in the direction that we desire. Only when our roots are deep, our foundation strong, and our heads held high can we truly make magic. Can we truly heal? Can we truly spread those gifts to others too? And so this is why the theme of this month is the healing grounds, our core, our foundation, this place that we can return to again and again to rest, rejuvenate, support our nervous systems in just this crazy world. So the first step then is awareness. Look around in your life. Look within yourself. Where is there chaos? Where is just this uncontrollable feeling, this uncontrollable madness that you either avoid or can't seem to get out of? Where does that exist in your life? Knowing where chaos exists is the very beginning to knowing how to wield it, how to make magic with it. So think about that for a moment. And we'll talk more now about how we can build these solid yet fertile foundations for us to wield this chaos, this magic, in a sort of sustainable and attainable way. Let's talk about this foundation now, because it exists in two places for us in our daily lives. The first place it exists is within ourselves. In Ayurveda, they call this the root chakra. This is the very first chakra that develops as soon as we are born, as soon as we take breath in this world. This is our first foundation, our first healing ground. It lives at the base of our spine, holding us up energetically and physically. And it deals with the primal things, the things that we need to survive. And unfortunately, there are so many times where our very first foundation is shaken from the very beginning. And some of these traumas of the root chakra can look like abandonment, parental neglect, illness as a child, inherited traumas. Anything that makes us feel unsafe in the body is a trauma of our foundation. And unfortunately, because we are so dependent on people around us as an infant, as a newborn, that a lot of us are walking around with wounded foundations that we had no control over whatsoever. And as babies, we are so in tune with our bodies, our life force literally depends on it. And so when these needs are not met, when these traumas occur, they can cause lack of commitment, distrust in ourselves and others, anxiety. Obviously, this varies from person to person depending on what the trauma of the root chakra is, but this just means that we are out of touch with our bodies. And if we're out of touch with our bodies, then what can we actually achieve in this world? Our bodies are our most holy divination tool. So many times people think that spiritual ascension, spiritual growth comes from the mind solely or somewhere outside of ourselves, but this is a lie. We must feel and explore everything. Movement and sensation are the keys to connecting with spirit. The mind and body work in unison to show us the path. After all, we are made of earth and stardust. Our bodies are ethereal, ancient, transcendent. The molecules in our fingertips and our eyelashes have lived for eons before us, and they will live for eons after us. There is intelligence and knowledge in the body itself. Embracing this opens so many doors we didn't even realize were there. And if our root chakra is traumatized, this energy center that revolves around us living deeply within our bodies is traumatized, then we can only go so far spiritually as people, as healers. This is why it's so important. This is why we start here. And this is where we begin again, on our knees in the dirt, forgetting everything we once knew, starting anew if we need to. We embrace again the wild primal nature of survival, instinct, intuition, ancestry. We need to celebrate the body and all of the power that comes from it. And so you might be thinking, well, how do I know if my root chakra is traumatized? There are some red flags, really, that you may not even have thought of before. Maybe a silly one is, think about as a kid, were you ever able to do a cartwheel? Maybe you didn't. If you weren't able to, maybe you weren't able to trust your body fully to go through the full circle. Another one is maybe not knowing when to relieve yourself. Maybe you were holding it in all the time or were going all of the time. And obviously there are medical conditions that relate to this, but if it's literally a mental block of not knowing when to go, this is a trauma of the root chakra. This also applies to food. If you were eating even when you were full or forgot to eat altogether, think about any time when you were out of touch with your body, when you literally didn't know what it needed. And this applies to just our very basic functions. Again, as children, we need very basic things. Think it as an adult. So again, to get back into touch with this internal foundation, this internal healing ground, we need to find ways to live in the body, to feel the body. And sometimes this can be painful because when we are so cut off from our body for so long, it can manifest as pain, as disease, as illness too. And sometimes when it becomes too much, when you start living in your bodies, there are simple exercises all around the natural world that can help us come into our bodies safely, easily. One way is simply walking outside with bare feet on the earth. This is so grounding. Even in winter, I know it's the middle of winter here, but this is an even better time. Just that shock of cold, that connection brings us back into the body. Another exercise is just simply find a tree. Stand facing that tree and imagine all of the energy, that strong life force that lifts this tree up, coming up through the roots, into the trunk, through your arms, down again, all the way back down to the roots. Close the circuit, become the river. Study the tree with your hands. Experience all of the grooves and the blemishes, the texture, the details. Get to know the face of that tree, the spirit of that tree. And coming into communion with trees is another great way to come back into ourselves. And once you start doing this, you'll find your own ways of connecting to the land, which helps you in turn connect to yourself. And obviously this all just takes time. And when we connect to our bodies again, a lot of emotions come up. And it's okay to just feel them all, to let them out. Once we start freeing up those emotions, we can finally come back into tune with the body and know what it needs. And then that leads us to the second place where our foundation lies, which is in the physical healing grounds. And this one is a difficult one to cultivate too, because there's so many obstacles that we have to overcome. And some, even just living in a safe place, a safe environment, is a privilege that not all of us have. But even if we don't live in a safe space, if we don't feel like we belong, if we feel lost, there are always places that we can go to escape if the place around us is not safe. One of my favorite places to do this is in a community garden. Every big city has one of these, and this is holy land. This is land where not only you can escape, but you can plant your roots, but you can connect with other people who are living in the same place, probably going through a lot of the same things as well. And so connecting with these people is a great way to build your foundation too. I highly recommend that. And another issue that we always need to address when we start cultivating these physical healing grounds is that most of us are on indigenous land. And there's no place on the planet that has not seen tragedy, whether it be by human hands or not. And the land holds memory, holds trauma. And so we can't begin to cultivate these beautiful healing gardens full of medicine and food without first tending the scars of the land. And you can almost feel the energy of these sorts of places. There's a certain sadness that you can feel or see even with your eyes. Maybe you can see it in the sides of mountains where they've been gutted for mines, or the murkiness of water where pollution has taken hold, or maybe you can just feel it in your bones when you enter a certain space. And so first and foremost, we need to know the history of the land, of what happened here, because each place is unique. Each place has seen its own trauma. And once we see that trauma, feel that trauma, only then can we know how to cultivate the healing grounds, how and what the land needs to heal. And as I say, with great love comes great responsibility. You can't give everything you have to the land without also acknowledging the trauma that it's been through and taking that responsibility and trying to make it right, whether it be reparations or volunteering, passing along information, whatever it be. Each person's journey will be unique in this. But letting in all of that information and feeling all of the emotions that come along with it is part of the journey. And then, only then, can we start cultivating our foundations. And what I always tell people when they want to learn about herbalism or land tending is, wherever you are, do nothing. Do nothing but observe. Learn all of the names of the plants and the trees around you. Draw them, sing to them, write stories to them about them. Learn their cycles, know when they bloom, when they die, how long they live. Learn who lived here before. What animals lived here before colonization. Get to know the ground that you stand on. And then once you know the face of the land, the names of the land, then you'll know what to plant, how it wants to be planted, what to do with the medicine that you grow, who to give it to, how to formulate it. This is a long process of getting to know the land, to healing the land, but it is definitely possible. So with all of that said, I hope you have a better idea now of how important it is to take notice of our foundations within and without us. And I'm excited to continue this conversation next week with a plant that we can use to build these healing grounds, which is burdock, one of my absolutely favorite plants to work with. And so I'm really excited to share that conversation with you. But until then, my friends, take care.